G'day everyone, my name is Michael Taylor. Welcome to 64 Motorsport. So on today's video, I'm going to be finishing off the valve cover install on my E46 BMW and also getting through a heap of other stuff. I still need to get the supercharger intake and wiring buttoned up. Got to sort out the vacuum lines. I want to get the front of the engine block cleaned up before I start putting belts and the radiator in. I need to get the bracket for the aircon compressor bolted back on and the aircon compressor all nutted in. I really want to start getting underneath the bonnet all buttoned up and ready to go so I can get to a point where I can fire it up and see what happens, because work wise it's really starting to pick up and I don't know if I'm going to get much time through the week to work on the old girl. And also, as you can see, the car's looking pretty manky, so I want to get that sorted out. So the first step is, to get all this tidied up, get the workbenches done. I want to get my racks sorted out. As you can see, I've just been piling stuff on there and it's starting to look really messy and it's doing my head in. Big job for today. Let's get this camera set up and we'll time lapse it and we'll see how we end up, eh? Now, one of the things I want to do today is give the E46 a bit of a freshen up, because it's been sitting in the garage for a few years and it's just looking really ordinary. And I think if I give it a bit of a tidy up, it's going to help to push me along in terms of getting this build over the line. What I'm going to try using is a waterless wash and polish. I'm not too worried if I put a couple little minor swirl marks in it, because once I've got it back on the road, I'm going to give it a full cut and polish and detail. I should be able to correct it, and this, being a lubricant, should remove the dirt and dust without putting scratches in it. I've never used it before, and if you guys have never used it before, then follow along and we'll see what the results are like. I'll be really interested to see what it is. I mean, this is one way, I guess, of washing your car when it's not mobile and it's stuck in the garage. So we'll see what happens. So overall, I'm really happy with the results. I don't think that product is specifically designed for a car as dirty as what mine was. I'd say if you wash it one weekend and it just needs a freshen up, then it would work really well. And I can't really tell at this stage whether I've put any fine scratches into it, but I rinsed the microfiber cloth out really regularly. So a couple of wipes, rinse out, a couple of wipes, rinse out, and I applied it fairly liberally. Pretty much went through the whole bottle just doing the car once. If you were just doing a freshen up, you might get a couple of goes out of a bottle, and it's about $17 or something, but it certainly served the purpose. I'll just give you a quick look at the results as it's come up. So now I can get ready to get underneath the bonnet and get some serious stuff done, which is probably what you've signed onto the channel to watch. Let's get some tools out, get underneath the bonnet, and we'll get cranked up from there. So what I'm going to do first is get cleaned up around the valve cover. While I've got access to the front of the engine block before I put belts and radiator hoses and the radiator back in, I'll get that freshened up because I've done most of the other engine. That's probably the last little bit. Get the aircon compressor degreased, get that bracket that I've freshened up, get that back on, all the wiring and the BMW cosmetic covers to go back on. So it's a lot of fiddly stuff. Once I've done that, then I'll work on the other side, get the supercharger intake piping sorted and the vacuum lines, and then I can get my strut tower brace back on. The next step is to get the radiator hoses back in, and then I'm ready to fire it up. I'm really excited. I can't wait, this has been way too long, and I'm just at the point now where I just want to hear this thing running, see what those new cams sound like, see what that new exhaust sounds like, the supercharger. It's going to give me goosebumps, I know. Still a bit to go, but really close to the finish line, and I'm really excited about it. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this really well, but I've cleaned up the front of the block. But that's come up pretty good. What I want to work on now is... where is it? There we go. That's the Aircon compressor, and you can see there's a lot of dirt and stuff like that over the top of it. And I'm going to get that cleaned up now, and hopefully I can get the camera down there so you can have a good squiz at how I go about that. But basically it's the same process that I've used with most of it. I use either a chemical guys degreaser or the... what's it called? I keep getting this wrong. Yeah, it's called Simple Green, which I get from the big box store, and you just dilute it, and it's really cost effective. And for the most part, apart from really caked on heavy oil and grease, it works extremely well. Plus it's environmentally friendly. I'm going to tackle that, and then once I've got that cleaned up, I'm going to get the bracket back on and finish getting the valve cover back on. I've got to sort out the wiring for the coils, the O2 sensors, get those back into position, get the BMW Vanity Covers back on, and I've got a couple of new clips to replace a couple of broken ones, a bit of rubber trim, and then I'll get started on the other side so I can get that supercharger finalised. It's going to be a little bit involved. I'm going to have to position the brake duct sensor, the brake duct brake cooling duct. God damn it. Anyway, I'm going to get that put in, and then I can finish the vacuum line for the supercharger, and then I should be pretty much right to go. Yeah, I'll keep cracking along. I'm really happy with the way I'm going. It's a beautiful day today. It's not too hot. Mind you, at about 3 o'clock, the sun just beats in. It sets pretty much... that's where the sun sets, so it beams in through this garage door, because once it gets really hot, it gets like dirty hot in here. It's well over 40 degrees and it's just not pleasant. So the more I can get done before we get into that really stinking hot weather, the happier I'll be. Let's get cracking. You know, every time I walk past these wheels, particularly on the back, because it's just such a nice fitment, I get goosebumps. I just love the choices I've made. Yeah, these F45s from Apex wheels are just awesome. I love the concave, little bit of a lip, and then with these hand-cooked tyres, these RS4s, I'm just busting my guts to get this thing up on the road. If you haven't seen my video on the wheels or the tyre fitment, I've got a link above for that, so check that out and you can get caught up on the performance modifications that I've made to my E46 BMW. Leave a comment on your thoughts, leave a comment on anything that you think I should do differently. I don't care, mate. I've got really thick skin, so lay it on me and we'll have a look at it. Good. I think that's good. So what I've got to do now is I'd actually pulled that aircon compressor off the bracket 6 or 12 months ago. So I've got the bolts. So that's the bolts, I think. And I think there's 2 different sizes. I'm going to play this by ear and see what fits, and hopefully we can get it back on. Gunk in those holes. Should have blown them out. Oh, that's a bit of a swap. That's got to go on. Off to the races now, I think. Could be here all day at this rate. Oh, you're kidding me. Should have blown those holes out. Trying to take shortcuts. Got one done. 2 done. Yay team! Yay team! So I've just finished lunch and I've got the air conditioning bracket on, the air conditioning back in, started a bit of a clean up under the bonnet as well. But what I'm going to do now is finish getting that valve cover on and those other decorative cover plates. Should be over here somewhere in my storage rack. somewhere. Might put the camera down, I'll get these out, and then I can get those cleaned up and get those underneath the bonnet. Finish getting this valve cover all sorted out. I'll get the camera set up and run the time lapse. By the glare, the sun's really starting to set low in the west at the moment. Just terrible to film underneath the bonnet at the moment. So I've got the, I guess you call them vanity covers with the BMW logo on. I'll just see if I can get it around to show you. Yeah, so really sorry about the glare, but I've got those on. All the O2 sensors are in. This wiring I've got to sort out, and there's a piece of rubber that goes across here. I've got to get that sorted out. Same on the other side, but on this side I'm going to sort out the vacuum lines now. They connect up to the back of the intake manifold. I've got a couple of new caps for the covers because the plastic clips on the back had broken on one, and that'll give me a spare. So there's a good tip for you. When you're ordering, say, major components out of the US, that's if you're here in Australia or whatever, have a look at your job and any of these plastic bits, add those into the order, and that way you're not paying a heap of freight for a relatively small component. It'll save you a bit of grief. I finished filming early yesterday because the sun was coming in through the garage door and it was just mucking up my footage. It was just so glary. I'm going to have to get a filter for my camera or something so that I can film some of this stuff underneath the bonnet late in the afternoon. I'll give you as an update in terms of where I'm at. And what I'm working on now is these vacuum hoses. This hose here is for the supercharger. There's a connection on the back of the intake manifold. There's a vacuum connection, so I'm going to hook that up to there. And this is the, there's this line here, and there's another, I've lost it now. I'm going to have a dig around. Yeah, but there's another vacuum line for the fuel filter, and I'm going to hook that up onto the second vacuum connection that comes off the back of the intake. That's what I've got to work on. And then there's also a bypass valve which runs from the, I think it's the intake and the inlet pipework on the supercharger setup. So I've got to connect that up. I'm thinking that's going to be really fiddly because there's probably only a couple of ways I can route that, and I've got to try and get, I think it's about a 3/4 inch hose or a 5/8 hose from one connection point to another, and I've got to find where that other hose went. No, it's obviously dropped down somewhere. If I get underneath the car, I'll probably find it just sort of dangling around down there. I think what's happened is when I've been connecting up the intake pipework onto the throttle body, I've disturbed it and it's just sort of dropped out of place, but I know it's there because I had it the other week, so I don't think anybody's flogged it. I'll find that and get that back on as well. So that's my plans for this afternoon, and I think after that I'm pretty much ready just to get the radiator and all that sort of thing back in. So I've got to get that ordered. I'm still in two minds where I go the CSF radiator or the Mishimoto. So keep tuned. I'll give you an update what I've decided on once I've got that ordered. So anyway, I'll get the camera reset up and get some time lapse of me getting this pipework back in. The bypass valve connects where my finger is there. There's a fitting on this inlet pipework, and the bypass valve connects from there, and then from there it goes to the intake pipe. And if I can get a light down in there, down in through there. So what I'm thinking is I'll take the pod filter off, and that should give me access to the clamp there. And then I can get underneath the car, hopefully, and get my hand in between all the other hoses and bits of wiring, get it connected up on there. Not much of a plan. Kind of figured it would be fiddly. That's why I'd probably put it off. We'll see how we go. Excuse my swear words if they slip out. See if I can get this sorted and get another job ticked off the box. So I got that bypass valve hose assembly set up, but I wasn't really happy with it. There was a bit of a kink in the hose where it connected up to the intake pipe work. So I'm going to disconnect it and try rerouting it a different way. I had it coming from the intake pipe along the chassis rail, but I'm going to pull it off that and then run it closer to where the alternator is. There seems to be a bit of a gap there, and then up to where it connects to the intake pipe. So this is the bypass valve assembly that I'm referring to. So this end here connects to the inlet pipework, and this part goes underneath the supercharger and connects to the intake pipework. And the problem I'm having is at the moment, this pipe here is just sort of kinking a little bit like that. And I'm just concerned that over time, it's going to put extra load on it. And with the heat of the engine, I'm going to end up with a crack and then a leak. So what I'm going to do is remove this section and just take off maybe 1/4 of an inch or 5 or 6 mil, and that should bring this section closer to where it connects up onto the intake pipework and should eliminate that kink. So that's what I'm going to work on now, and we'll see how we go. But it was devil's own time getting it out, and I'm not really sure how I got it in the first place. There's so little space there. There's so many competing hoses and wires and vacuum lines and things like that, and then I've got the ductwork for the alternator, which comes off the ductwork for the brake ducts. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I'm just trying to eliminate any potential problems in 12 months' time and that sort of thing. So comfortable, folks. I shouldn't have loosened it off so much. They're getting close. The problem is I need new glasses. If I can get a couple more turns on this, I think we should be sweet. I don't know if it really is too tight, to be honest. I think that's all. To be honest. Yeah. Okay, so it's not coming. Okay, sweet, no worries. My wife has washed the floor, so I better not walk inside. You guys will merry-go know the significance of that. What the outside diameter is. Well, I'm really happy with the progress of today. I've pretty much got everything done that I really wanted to. So I've just got to go to the parts store, just get a couple of hose clamps so I can finish off doing those vacuum lines. But all the hose that I bought to upgrade that vacuum line and modify it are the right size. So I just realised I'm short a couple of clamps, so I'll get those throughout the week and finalise that. But the bulk of the work's done, so I'm really stoked about that. If you like my videos, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you want to see more content about BMWs, maintenance, performance upgrades, and to follow the build of my E46, how about you subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified each time a new video comes out. So I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. What am I doing next? I haven't really planned the next one. I'm pretty sure it'll be another vlog in terms of working on the E46. I haven't really sort of got anything planned in terms of a maintenance one at this stage. I've still got to finalise the purchase of the radiator, so keep an eye out for that. And once we've got the radiator done, it's pretty much going through and tightening bolts, making sure everything's torqued up properly before the initial startup. So I'm hoping initial startup in the next 2 to 3 weeks for sure. So thanks for watching, but until we meet again, look after yourselves, stay safe, TTFN.